The conversation this morning is environmental sustainability, and I did say before we went on the break that we'll be joined by Dr. Jumoke Kasim this morning, who's an environmental sustainability consultant, joining us to have this conversation on how businesses with their activities impact on environmental pollution and what we can do to get them to take more responsibility for their actions. To introduce Dr. Jumoke Kasim this morning, she's a sustainability consultant, she's a horticulturist and a German-trained landscape architect, and she holds a BSc degree in agricultural economics from the University of Ibadan, Nigeria. She has a professional garden design training from the Chelsea College of Arts and Design, University of London, UK. I think I'll learn gardening. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, so with this morning, we're discussing the role of businesses in environmental sustainability. We've had a conversation on, the micro and the macro effects of human activities on a less sustainable environment. Micro talking about the individual, and macro looking at the roles of businesses, which is our focus this morning. So in your experience, what role do businesses have to play in creating a more sustainable environment? Or what roles do they even play in creating a less sustainable environment?
Thank you. The businesses around the impact on the environment is quite enormous, and it's very important that they do the needful by taking more care about their pollution, what they generate as it affects the environment. But it doesn't seem that is what operates here, and government too has a role to play, because there are the laws actually, but the enforcement part is not airtight. So if businesses can take more responsibility, there will be lesser effect on the environment. So you have Lagos laws, which is under the purview of LASEPA, and there are certain laws about how effluent should be disposed, how much of air pollution is tolerated, but a lot of companies don't really, they don't uphold those levels. And I'm not sure if there are enough punitive measures or maybe fines, but if within the companies they play by the rules, they make conscious efforts to do the right thing, I think the impact on the environment will be reduced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk about the ecosystem. Let's put this in perspective. What exactly comes together to form the ecosystem? Let's even know if the things we define as ecosystem does not even count to start with, so that we know, okay, we are not actually impacting on the ecosystem, or we are very, very, very impacting on the ecosystem. So let's put that in perspective.
The ecosystem is a combination of different organisms in relation to the physical environment. So you have different sectors. You have the marine ecosystem, you have the plants, and this also goes into biodiversity as they interrelate. And it's important that each of the sectors, the natural system is maintained. When it's disrupted, it causes a loss, and we humans will miss out because it begins to affect how the natural course of things should go. And this we can begin to feel because of the current impact that we're making on the environment, which is causing climate change. We're already feeling the impact because so many things are going wrong. The agricultural system now, the calendar is not the same, so it's difficult for agric to be for predictions. So you can predict the rains are supposed to start in February. The farmers, most farming in Nigeria is rain dependent a lot, which we need to move away from that if we want to keep the food coming. So there's a need to change from being dependent on rain-fed agriculture. We need to improve and increase on irrigation system, because that will help us to manage the situation, because already climate change is here. We can't deny it. There's flooding, there's irregular rainfall. So, I mean, if farmers have to wait for rainfall, which is unpredictable, there will be a lot of loss, you know, because if it rains in February and then it goes off for like 3, and you go to plant and it goes off for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, all the plants will die, you know. So, but if you make plants to have irrigation, I mean, so that means you can continue and then you can deal with that situation of the effect of destruction in the ecosystem. So we need to make effort, you know, we need to make a lot of effort.
Can climate change be revenued in a way that it can be fixed? So can we ever get back to a time when, you know, we're having regular rainfalls, when we're able to actually, for instance, where the agri sector can predict according to the calendar they always knew? Can it still be revenued, or are we past that point?
That's a tough question, you know. So there's so much carbon emission that has disrupted the system. The United Nations, UNFCCC, agreed, all the countries, member countries agreed that we need to work to reduce the temperature increase to not surpass 2 degrees, you know. So countries are working on it, and that's what they call the climate adaptation processes.
Right.
In Nigeria, there's still a lot of denial. I mean, people are arguing. I mean, some people don't even think that there's climate change, not to talk about getting them to adapt. So a lot of things that is required for the adaptation, most products are not made in Nigeria, so it makes them really expensive. So those are the orders, you know, so they are expensive. We need to localize, we need to take our part. Individuals need to understand what they are contributing to climate change. And this in our hand, there are small things that we can do to make the changes, you know. And it all borders on waste. You know, when you waste electricity, you waste the waste that you are generating. You know, all the waste are reusable. You can earn from it. Even now, carbon emission is traded in Europe. It's 50 euros per ton of carbon emission that you save. You know, so it's already been monetized to encourage people to adapt, to take the climate adaptation processes. For the products that I mentioned, because they're not made here, they're expensive, especially that our currency rate, the disparity is really high, so it makes them so expensive. So there's, for all the waste that is being generated, they all now have a second usage. Mixed waste now, you can convert it to electricity. I mean, we need so much electricity in Nigeria, and there is a machine that converts all the mixed waste. You don't need to segregate to electricity. There's another machine that converts plastic waste to electricity. There's a machine that converts organic waste to compost. To compost, you know. So there are so many things. Yeah, so
compost for farming, though.
Yes, for farming. So you can have organic food and improve your health, you know. So all the waste can be reused. Your fecal waste can produce electricity. So that you can make a bio plant, you can make a biodigester. So everything in your household. So individually, we can do something that will help us reduce our expenses and give us a second product. So when we need to change the mindset of people. So, and knowledge, we need to educate our people to know that everything that you're doing in your house, in your office, you can create something else from it and save money, because if you don't have to spend money to do those, to buy those other things, then you're saving money and it will impact on your turnover, you know. So the mindset change is really important. Education is important.
So these kinds of waste management and recycling, I know there are 3 forms of recycling: mechanical, chemical, and the ones we've been talking about, energy kind of recycling. Are they financially sustainable for a government, for a country to act, like Nigeria, for instance, to actually begin to rely on?
Yes. You know, from the UNFCCC, they created a fund, you know, to support all of these things. So we just need to ask. It's not everybody that can access it, you know. So it has a process, it has a protocol, you know. So, and the country needs to be ready. You have to make legislation to make it work.
And we're not there.
Yes. So if there's no legislation, if there's no legislation, the companies won't comply. Even the already existing laws, that if there is no implementation or enforcement, people are not taken to it. So government's part role, I mean, is to legislate and enforce and educate people to know that, okay, this is going to benefit you. You know, so when people know that they can save money from doing the right thing, I mean, implementing this climate adaptation, new technologies, new system, or even just change of attitude can help their bottom line, then they will begin to see the changes that we require.
Let's talk about big companies, businesses, manufacturing plants, business owners, and how their businesses impact on the environment. Let's begin with, excuse me, the excuse. There was an excuse we made this morning, in quotes, about how, oh, there's no electricity, so we have to run our generator. And this our generator, we are emitting carbon into the environment, and we're turning everything. So, yeah. Can we talk about how different businesses at different points impact on the environment?
I mean, that point is valid because government is unable to provide adequate electricity for people. But going forward, what other countries who had gone far in this system have done is to create laws and create emission cap for different sectors of the economy and say, oh, this is the emission cap you are allowed. When you emit more than that, you pay a fine.
Is there a way to measure that?
Oh, yeah. There are equipment devices to measure your carbon emission. And then you can, government's role to put a cap that, okay, if you are in the cloth manufacturing, this is the cap you are allowed. If you produce more than that, you have to pay a fine. And then that fine, you can pay it to support a carbon offset project. Carbon offset project will be things like growing trees that will increase oxygen stock into the environment, which will absorb those your carbon excesses. You know, so you support projects that will increase oxygen stock into the system. So we need to have that here. So, and I mean, that's, you can also translate to polluter pays, you know, system, you know, so we have to get there. This was also discussed in the Lagos State Climate Summit, which held 2 weeks ago. It was discussed that polluter pays system needs to come in place, but there needs to be a lot of education. There has to be that emission cap system so that people will know that, okay, this is, and then that will encourage people to move to greener energy, you know, greener energy using solar, hybrid system that are emission-free. So if you turn on to solar, they're expensive. And so there is need to adopt sustainable financing, which the UNFCCC already take note of. So there are international funding for payment plan. You can access a loan to implement those bulk green energy system, and then you can spread the payments. Long tenure, actually, 5-10 years, you know, because the equipment are expensive. Like I said, the disparity in the currency makes that to be. So, so education, legislation, implementation, enforcement, you know, the companies need to be aware. All of us, all hands have to be on deck. The company needs to be aware. They need to train their members, their staff. You know, it has to be voluntary adaptation. So you know that you're doing this for the environment. And because you don't have to force people to do this. When people understand that this is what we're doing to the environment, and this is how I can make my own contribution, then people can voluntarily do it. You know, when you go out anywhere, you see people just drop PET bottle, nylon, you know.
We had a field day with that this morning.
They don't feel anything is wrong. So when we can start to change people's mindset about, oh, you are wasting money. Anything you drop, you are wasting money. You know, and then there's a system to get them to be motivated. You know, there are these vending machines that you can put your PET bottle and get a ticket. So we can install such all over the city. And then people know that, okay, if I generate any waste, I can drop it somewhere, get a ticket, and then I can redeem something from supermarket. So that will start to motivate people. And then all of this other product I told you, there's a machine that converts all PET bottles, all plastics, being paint bucket, any plastic to electricity. And then there's somewhere to put it and redeem something. You know, that will encourage people. When you know that your poop
we're really enjoying this conversation because we have not
solution.
Yeah.
We are really enjoying this conversation with you because I feel like we have not even
scratched.
Yeah, we are still scratching at the surface, but we really have to go because our time is up on the show this morning. Wow. Thank you so much for coming. But I do hope that we actually have a better time for this conversation and break it down to the very minimum.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us this morning, Dr. Jumoke Kasim.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Yeah. We need to have a zero-waste system. That's when we can make the environment really the way
I love how passionate you are about it. I wish that, as a collective nation, we are actually, work in your field. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right.